Hi, I'm going to talk about standards for healthcare information exchange. Now, why do we need that? If we need to provide better and cost-effective patient care, then we have to exchange the healthcare information. And the best way to do that is using a standard. Now, what is a standard? If we look at the IEEE Standards Computer Dictionary, a standard is the ability of two or more systems or components to exchange information and to use the information that has been exchanged. Now, two key words here is to exchange information. This means we need to be careful about the structure or the syntax, or syntactic information. And then we also need to use it meaningfully. So the meaning or the semantics or the functional information is equally important. Now, why do we need standards at all? Now, suppose there are two hospitals which code the patient's gender. One codes male as 1 and female as 0, another codes male as 0 and female as 1. That actually cannot be said syntactically in a valid way. Now, if we consider a third hospital, say C, where instead of 2 you have got 3 classes for the patient's gender, male, female and unknown. Now, here again there's a difference in the semantics. So while you can actually transfer the male female part, but because there's no unknown in the table of hospital A, so this cannot be fully transferred. What are the other challenges when we try to exchange the healthcare information? Across the healthcare institutions and others who need the healthcare data like insurance or public health or research, there are some important issues, like how can the clinical data be shared among different healthcare enterprises using different technology? Then how can the same patient be identified across different institutions? Also, how can the data exchange be secure and access to the patient data be monitored? Even within the healthcare institution, there could be some issues, like how do you collate the patient's clinical data from different sources, whether it's the laboratory or the pharmacy or the clinician notes, and it has to be brought to the patient's point of care into an electronic medical record. Now, when we talk about standards, why do we need standards? Because the same word may mean very different to someone else. I may be thinking of a particular dog when I say dog, but you may be thinking of an entirely different breed of it. So it's not exactly the same meaning that was meant to be conveyed. If we look at the health concept triangle that was made by Scott, McIsaac and Saad, if you see there's a reporting terminology or classifications, then you also have reference terminology or concepts, and then you have clinical interface terminology. So whatever is told by the patient, the history recorded by the clinician, that may be represented in various ways, and this could lead to confusions. To avoid that, we actually have some standards in broad categories for the exchange of healthcare information. It could be vocabulary standards, or it could be the standards for content exchange. It could be standards for transport. Also, it could be standards for privacy, security, and confidentiality. If you look at the common medical vocabularies, the standards, we have LOINC, From WHO, we have ICD-9 or ICD-10, and ICD-11 is expected to be out by the end of this year. From ISTSDO, we have the SNOMED CT, we have the CPT-5 from AMA, from WHO, we have ICHI, and so on. If you look at the content exchange standards, from HL7, we have got the version 2, version 3 with CDA, then CDA plus CCR could be CCD. For imaging, we have the standards called as DICOM. If we look at the transport standards, we have SOAP or XML, that's a World Wide Web Consortium compliance standard. For security, we could have various algorithms for encryption. The standards organization, that is the International Organization for Standardization or ISO, has got a work group specifically for this health informatics standards. That's the TC 215 or the Technical Committee 215. They often discuss about what standard should be adopted, and then the countries, the respective standards organization of countries, they either accept as it is or sometimes there may be need for a local adaptation. The commonly used standards, as I said already, I'll talk slightly more about two of them. The first is HL7. What is HL7 or Health Level 7? It's an ANSI accredited standards development organization operating in the healthcare arena. It is made up of volunteers, providers, customers, vendors, government. And why is it called HL7? Because it's actually, it represents the application level layer or the 7th layer of the Open Systems Interconnection Networks, the ISO communication model. If we look at the other commonly used standard, that is SNOMED CT. SNOMED CT is now maintained by the International Health Terminology Standards Development Organization or the ISTSDO, and there are country members. So country members can get a free license, affiliate license for using the standards. If we look at it at the harmonization of standards, so SNOMED CT and LOINC, they have an agreement for mapping. Then SNOMED CT is also being aligned to the ICD-11 of the WHO. So in other words, in a short time probably the ICD-11, SNOMED CT, LOINC, they would be coming together. Now, where is the commonality and where is the difference? ICD was initially meant for statistical purposes or epidemiological purposes, so you need not go into very detailed level of granularity, whereas SNOMED CT actually can capture anything in the clinical domain to any level of granularity that you would like to have it. So there are different reasons for it, and ultimately if we are thinking about the patient at the center of the universe, we definitely need to exchange the healthcare information irrespective of whether the patient is being treated in one particular country or different countries or even different cities in the same country. But wherever the patient goes, the records must be available to the patient or the patient party as well as the care provider. And that is where the role of the standards for healthcare information exchange comes. Thank you.